The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
What's up, Pistons fans? Kind of deciding who's going there. What's up, Pistons fans? It is the Buffs On podcast, the best POD in the 313. Just the three of us today. Valley, Gabe, and myself. We're a couple days, about a week after the Pistons got bounced from the playoffs, and you know what that means. It's time to start talking about some off-season nonsense, some high hopes, some pipe dreams about the guys we could get, and the way this team can look next year. And we want to talk a little bit about what are the adjustments, who are the guys that we can bring in to make this team better. But to really get into that conversation, we got to talk a little bit about the weaknesses that we saw. And, you know, Trajan Langdon's plan was to let this team run a playoff, see where the issues came up, and then adjust from there. So what did you guys see was the biggest issue? We can go through a couple, but the biggest issue or the biggest couple issues that this team has as currently constructed.
It's no surprise that it's shooting. I think shooting and ball handling is going to be a repeated issue. It's been repeated since, I don't know, Thanksgiving maybe. Dunk is our shooter. Cade, credit to Cade. His three-point shot came around the playoffs. It really did, except for Game 7, of course. So I'm looking at guys that can shoot. I'm looking at internal development for shooting. And I think secondarily, or like one, that's 1A, 1B. I'm looking at another ball handler, creators, preferably more than one more guy because K needs help. Anything different than that, or same old stuff?
You can't be more of the money. It is the same stuff, but like I've been thinking about this, and I saw something on Reddit, Pistons Reddit talked about this, and I thought there was a lot of truth to it. There's like a designated 3-point specialist like a Duncan Robinson, and then there's guys that can get it on a three levels, and I think that's also kind of mixes in with the creation that we need. But you're on the money. You saw it, the lack of ball handling, especially when Cade starts to get fatigued because he has some of the highest usage rate we've ever seen in the history of the playoffs on him. Moving Danis into the starting lineup was a direct indicator that I think the guard next to Cade, or whatever you want to call it, it's got to be a guy who can operate with the ball in his hands. I don't know if Asar Thompson is necessarily going to be that guy next to him. I don't know who that necessarily will be, but once Danis went into that starting lineup, things opened up. But then the issue was then Danis can't come off the bench. Sasser was pretty solid, but I think Sasser's much more of a shot maker, which we'll get into. But I think it's glaring that the biggest needs are more 3-point shooting, and at the same time, just some guys that can create for themselves. Whether you can knock out two birds with one stone with one player in that, I think will be the big debate, which I'm sure we'll get into with our upcoming free agent targets and perhaps some trade talk. Pani, I don't know if there's anything different. I feel like we're beating a dead horse by saying
more shooters. I think specifically we need shooters. We need big shooters. Shooters that can play the 4 or a shooter that can play the 5. Because with Asar Thompson out there, he's never going to be a shooter. I've resigned to that, but he is going to be an incredibly impactful player in so many different ways that if you can bring a big shooter into that lineup and have him be the only non-spacer, I think that could unlock some truly special stuff for these Pistons. So that's some of the stuff I kept in mind as targets for us.
Do you have, it's weird enough. Is there another position that you think is like a dark horse? I guess you could say we need some more attention here.
Yeah, backup point guard, power forward, and starting 2 guard.
So what do you think about Duncan Robinson's role in all of this? Is he going to be off the bench next season? Is he potentially, we'll get into maybe a tradable piece with his contract? Where do you see Duncan's future?
He could come off the bench. I don't see him as a tradable piece. Obviously he would be a really tantalizing trade piece for teams because they can just get out of his contract or let him keep playing with them. But I think just because you don't put him as a major role starter doesn't mean Duncan couldn't find minutes in several ways on this team. I think he would always be super effective. It's just Is he the starting two, or does he just come in as play wing minutes, like play 25 wing minutes a game, and just wherever you place him in different lineups? I think he can be really sort of all over the place for this squad, so I would love him still on the team. It's one of the guys I think we should keep as the one shooter.
Yeah, definitely. He's
Um,
like we've said so many times, he does more than just shoot. And I think he'd only be helped by more threats on the court where he kind of gets put down on the threat level by other teams and he's able to really get more open looks and do a little bit more space when he puts the ball on the floor in the two-man games.
I don't want to like spark a transition into some free agent talks, but like when I was going through the free agent targets or the realistic free agent targets, a question that came into my mind is this person replacing Sasser? And I just want to like carve out a minute or two to get your opinion on what Sasser's position on this team
Brother.
next year and moving forward. Is he done? Is the spurt he had where he seemed to somewhat prove himself as the playoffs dwindled down enough for him to be in a rotation or on the roster next season? Because the guys I'm looking at, I'm like, is it worth it when we have Sasser? What do you think about Marcus Sasser's role on this team moving forward?
My issue is that he's 6 feet tall. Um, and he can do some stuff. He's got some wiggle. But if I'm talking about like wanting spacers and secondary creators, I just want a little more size, a little more meat. Like he's just small. And if we're talking about like a full-time guy, to be versatile in lineups that like he just can't be. Like he's your point guard or he's gonna guard a small guy. And if you can't do that, you, you just can't.
I feel like
Yeah.
he was all right in terms of hanging on his own in the series against the Cavs. What do you think,
Yeah,
Gabe? You think you think he's here next season? You think there's a role for him?
I mean, he next season is a team option, 5 million. If we need a roster spot for cheap, then we pick him up. I the role I think this season was we mentioned it earlier the competition between him and uh Danis to get that backup spot and Danis claimed it. Sasser he's just small. He's just small and there's some guys in the draft as well. We'll talk draft a little bit later that can fulfill his role. If like a guy like him, right? On OKC, that's Cason Wallace. And I think in every situation, you want Cason Wallace over Marcus Sasser. So I think there's just room to upgrade that position. But again, if we need a little bit of cheap flexibility, he's a good player. He knows the system. I'm fine with him being here. But I think there's a reason he got played out of the rotation and only kind of came in as an emergency when everything else failed. So yeah, I'm not big on Marcus Sasser unless he really takes a step to be like an
yeah.
offensive weapon.
I thought him popping into the rotation was more just like we need shooters and he is like a shooter rather than it's like, oh, we need to play Marcus Sasser. Um, but then let's get into it. We've highlighted a couple points that we want to get after. I want to do this kind of split. I want to go free agents, possible free agent targets first, and then I want to go into possible trade targets to try to fill these spots out. Um, and then we can hold draft for another day for draft targets to fill these
Yeah, yeah,
spots
yeah.
out. But let's start with free agents.
Why don't we go one by one here? So you say
Yeah.
one and then kind of off the board.
All right. Yeah. So this is going to be a hot take, but my first overall pick for free agents is Kristaps Porzingis.
Oh, bringing
Who,
it back from our trade deadline
who
day.
could, who
Dang.
just gives us, I think, an immense amount of size that could play both the four or the five. Play the four as a stretch four or as a stretch five. He's 7'3". I mean, he's a proven winner. He has a championship under his belt and is just like when he is on the court, pretty awesome. Now, there's the question of is he going to be on the court? I think that can actually kind of help us out if it is an illness that he gets past. I think that has definitely hurt his value and could make him less expensive. So he's not getting paid the 30 million a year he was getting paid last year. But that's my first guy I want to get is Chris Stopps. What do you guys feel about that?
Would that mean we lose any of our three big men that we currently have at the five spot? I know there's a lot of circulation about Stu being a movable deal. Does that play any factor into it, or is this we have four big guys now in Kristaps, P. Reed, Stu, and JD
I
in this
think
work?
he eats more into that Tobias Harris sort of zone.
Is he the
Uh,
starting four then? Like, what do
I,
you see with this? Like, if
yeah,
we
That
honestly,
would be
like
kind of nasty
I
as him
think
as
it
the
would
starting
be the
four.
starting four and just give us like one more shooting because he just is a flat out better 3-point shooter than Tobias, and two, just make us fucking humongous, which would be awesome.
I ki- I kind of like the idea of it. He looked okay, I thought, for Golden State too when he had that seemed to shake off that mystery illness that nobody really seemed to know what was going on with him. Um, I'm not gonna lie, you kind of sold me on this. We miss a big body at times, and I know he doesn't really play necessarily like a big body. But man, oh man, would that be an upgrade on the starting four spot, theoretically, with Kristaps.
Yeah, I mean he's an elite rim protector, obviously. Ever since his Washington days, he's good ISO like in the post. Same thing Tobias does, except he's 7'3", you know. Um, the lineups would be crazy. And he's playing for Latvia this summer, I believe, again. So there's a Eurobasket going on. So we'll see if he plays, how healthy he looks.
The
I
the
wanted him at the
reports
trade deadline. Yeah.
the reports are that Golden State is not going to re-sign him. So
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean they're tight on money, and like you said, Connie, he made 30 mil last year. He's 31 years old now. I could see him like he's trying to get one more like 3-year deal probably. I'm not paying him 30 mil a year, but
I
what
don't
about
think
like a three
anybody
for
is.
60 for him? 3 for 60, is that outrageous? A 2+1?
No, I don't think that's outrageous. Like there's probably going to be a couple suitors. It'll what it ends up being with, but as long as
Lakers could use him as well.
Lakers could use him.
Could
I
use a
heard he
lot of
played.
suitors.
I heard he doesn't like Luca that much.
Bears. All right, so it seems like I got you guys with
That's a good pick.
Kristaps.
It's not a bad one. It's interesting. I'd love to hear what the general Pistons fandom thinks about the
Yes,
idea of Kristaps. So let us know. Like let us know.
sound
That's
off.
such an interesting player. I feel like he splits fan bases everywhere he's been, even since he was drafted in New York and everything that went down there with him and the ownership parting ways. But that's
All
an
right,
interesting one. That's the top of the list so far. It's been the only one.
who's your first guy, Valley?
For me, I thought when I'm looking through the category and looking at all the unrestricted free agents, it's a guy I mentioned also at the deadline last year, at this past deadline, like you did with Kristaps, Stormin Norman Powell. Not only for the fact that he couldn't kill the Pistons anymore if he was on the team, but I think he would be just the ideal player on this team. The ability to get your own, the ability to get hot, kind of reminds me of just a much more dimensional Malik Beasley. He can get it done on all three levels, like I was saying earlier. Elite shooter, elite range. You got to pick him up almost inside half court. He was nasty in Miami, and then seemed to have some injury things going on. Little connection theoretically to Stu. He represents the Jamaican national team. Norman Powell, I think that'd be nice. But in terms of a guy that can just purely fill it up, he would come in. His role would be to fill it up, and he would thrive at doing that. Um, Career shooting numbers extremely high, especially from the 3-point range, and gets up a high volume of threes. Decent size, can kind of maybe tweak in at a two and maybe even in a three in some smaller lineups with some better defenders alongside him. I know it's not his ideal position, but a pretty big body for a two, I think. I think just having the threat of somebody who can shoot so quickly and also put it on the floor. So you got to close out strong on him at the same time he can get by you would help Cade so much. I don't think we've anybody with that kind of player. You close out Duncan, he'll get by you. Duncan will make the right play most of the time, but Norman's just a different kind of athlete, I think. Seeks contact more than Duncan Robinson. I mean, it's easy from a Pistons point of view to like admire him because most of the games I've watched Norman Powell in is him torching us. I would love to see his career numbers against the Pistons, but Toronto, Miami, Los Angeles, everywhere he's been, you know what you're getting from Norman Powell, and we need
Yeah,
a guy where you know what you're getting from him. You don't know what you're getting from Kristaps. You know what you're getting from
yeah,
Stormer.
but do you like what you're getting from Norman Powell? It feels like everywhere Norman goes, by the end of his tenure there, the fans are not super happy about Norman Powell. While you were talking, I just went onto the Heat Reddit and just looked up Norman Powell, and they're having some conversations about like should we re-sign Norman Powell, and every single comment is no. and there seems to be a strong distaste for this guy, and I just don't like that.
What's
That
the
like that
I'm not
he's not a defender, a playmaker, or a facilitator. He's too small. He's definitely not a two-way player. He's not consistent.
I
Yeah,
think
I think that's also partially him being forced to do too much in Miami because they don't have a traditional like point guard at the moment. So I mean, like if he like Valley said just in the Malik Beasley go and get buckets role where you don't want him to pass, you don't want him to do everything, you want him to score 20 points on elite efficiency. I'm a fan. I like this guy a lot as well. Um,
here's a comment that I
yeah,
Norm can get points on the board, but at the expense of the rest of the offense, and largely through elite foul drawing, which I know you guys are going to hate. And then
we need it though. We need
against
that.
decent defensive teams who have tape, he usually folds. These are just not the. I can't say I've watched that many Miami Heat games this year, but these are just not the comments I want to hear around a guy.
That's fair. That's fair, but I can't hate on again, if he's, it all depends on the contract. I think he is, once again, I think he was better on the Clippers than he was on Miami just because of the role he was in. Um, I, yeah, I like Norm. I think Kristaps for me would still be above him right now if we're doing a list here,
I mean, it all
tier
comes down to the
rankings.
money. Yeah. Like, how much are
Yeah.
you going to pay this guy? How much is he going to demand?
but I don't know. A guy that you just know is gonna chuck the ball up. To me, it's just something that like this team desperately needs right now. Like ball's going up. Defense is going out to Norman Powell. And I just like to think that if there's enough defense to hide Duncan Robinson, I think you can work around Norman Powell and whatever he lacks on the defensive side of things.
I just don't like. Is he a chucker?
I
You
hope he
take
is. I would
I
love
don't
that.
want
We
a
need a
chucker.
chucker.
No, we don't.
I
All
think
right.
that's
Let me go a little bit more on the overall side here with my pick. I know Amit wants this guy in his top three as well, so I'm going to say Ayu Dosunmu. Uh, I'm a big fan of Ayo. He's super fast. He's strong. I love his shot. Seems like he always makes his above the break threes. Um, Only getting paid 7 mil last season. That's going to go up. He's kind of entering
Yeah.
his prime right now. So I'm kind of wondering what the contract for him will be. But I don't think he's going to be crazy expensive. And he shot really well in the playoffs as well. He stepped up when he needed to. And then he did get a little bit exposed as a primary guy, which he wouldn't be. He'd come off the bench, do his scoring role,
Yeah, he got
able
hurt
to handle the
too.
ball. Yeah, and like I just think he's a really good player. I liked him on the Bulls, liked him even more in a winning team context. He showed how like valuable he is. He has a floater, he has a mid-range game, which I really like, and he's fast and he gets to the rim. He just and like what Norm Powell doesn't do is he plays both ends and he's strong and he's long. So for me, that would be a perfect guy. Probably not starting him, but kind of in the Dennis Jenkins, those three guys together, Cade, Danis, and Io would be a good like three-headed guard rotation, I think.
Yeah, I think Io would be Io. Would like he's super high on my list as well. I almost considered picking him. I love him. Like you said, two-way, and then he could also do a little bit more on the ball than like in terms of facilitating and running an offense than Norman Powell. I feel like he's a little bit more of a passer, better passer. Like you said, way better defender. Shoots the three. He's like I think a perfect guy for this squad. And really the only thing I would be worried about is that from this playoff run, now he ended up injured, but like the 40-point game, beating the Nuggets without Ant or Dante DiVincenzo, right? Is he going to get one of those like stupidly high one playoff run paydays, which I could definitely see happening. Like I see a lot of rumors about him to the Nets, and the Nets are just going to be able to outbid us for that guy. But as a player, yeah, I'd love him on the squad.
I think he's gonna get a pretty big payday. I think like a lot of players, he was kind of restrained in Chicago. And that was shown instantly in Minnesota. His impact right away was just next level with Timberwolves. And I really just think he's in line for a payday, but a guy I'm willing to pay. I think Io is just He's a great basketball player. I think he showed a lot in that series against the Spurs. Most impressive for me, I know it's kind of random, but he had not a dunk on Wemby, but the ambition to, take on Wemby, throw it down with two hands, on top of being able to shoot off the dribble anywhere within what 35 feet of the basket. Would check a lot of boxes. He was my number two on my list for me. So I don't know.
You
I
want to
think,
hear a few good stats from him?
yeah, what we got?
Shooting 58% in his career on twos. In the 25-26 season, he shot 44% from three. Last year, split between Chicago, he shot 45%. And then in the Timberwolves, he shot 41% from three. So he's just, yeah, he's efficient.
I wonder how much internal discussion there was in terms of if we could have gave up more to land him instead of Kevin Huerter at the deadline. So I wonder if there's already been some interest there. But my worry is just the exposure from playing exceptionally well for his role in the playoffs might lead him to a huge payday, like you said, especially with those Brooklyn Nets and the cap room they have. But I think we're all in agreement. Io is hands down would be an absolutely fantastic addition to this roster and would make this team much more complete. And a three-headed guard rotation of him, Danis, and Cade is pretty elite in my opinion, especially in the Eastern Conference.
Connie, second pick.
With my second overall pick, I'm going to go back to the shooting power forward and I'm going for Rui Hachimura. I know you guys aren't big Rui fans, but the man can catch and shoot the hell out of the basketball. He can get to his stuff a little bit in the mid range. He's big. He's fairly athletic. He can shoot the ball. That's mainly it. He can shoot the hell out of the ball. And that's my entire reason for wanting him on this team.
Does he have the playoff record of 3-point percentage?
Yep.
He doesn't.
Highest ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, man.
He steps his game up in the playoffs, that's for sure.
I think also having played next to LeBron and obviously now Luca would give him a I don't know a sense of I don't know how to say. I'm sure he knows where to be. My point is playing with Cade, other guys who are
Yeah,
somewhat
this last playoff run, freaking 17 points, 4 boards a game, shooting 57% from three. It was 48% from three in their last playoff run, 36, 49, 60. Like, he hits his three-pointers.
good size too. And you mentioned one thing that interests me is like the ability to somewhat get his own in the mid range. How many times do we rely on Tobias Harris to do that? I see no reason why Hachimura couldn't equate to like or at least provide some sort of similar relief possessions off when it matters, getting in the mid range on a mismatch because he's a
Uh,
lengthy 6'10", 6'11", isn't he? Um,
yeah, the only thing
I
he
think
doesn't
he's
play
more
very.
6'8", no?
oh shoot.
Yeah, he doesn't play that big. He's 6'8". He definitely sports more towards like a wing shooter rather than like being the type of guy to mix it up on the boards like Tobias was. I can't speak to his defense. I'm assuming it's not tremendous, but just purely as a three-point shooting play, probably a bench big, bench forward, bench wing. Um,
So you're not envisioning him as the starter?
I'm not. No, that would be Kristaps.
So is Tobias gone in your books?
Um, yeah.
Oh, big,
Yeah, I just
big.
think Tobias might get himself a payday, man. And I think Tobias is going to get money this offseason, and I just don't think it's going to be from us.
Yeah, I want Tobias to retire here. But yeah, like you say, he's one of those like hopefully these last games where he kind of played like crap, drives his value down a little bit. But he's a guy that also like kind of proves like he has more in the tank and he could get a decent payday still. But I want him to retire here though. I think that would be awesome. Rui, I think I'm still a big Ron Holland believer. So I'm not really
Different
like,
positions.
I mean, they're both like 6'8" wings.
Ron Holland is like 6'6" at maximum.
I think Ron's more 6'9".
Yeah.
What?
You look at Ron and Cade standing next to each other. Ron's definitely bigger than Cade. He's at least a 6'7". I would consider him in shoes.
Listed 6'8",
Listed
same as
6'8",
same as a Rui. So for
but
me, they
he's not
both
a
play the
power
same.
forward. Like he guards. If we're talking about like defense, Ron Holland guards up then in position, like he or down in position. Like he's best at guarding ball handlers and not bigs.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Rui's like I don't know if he's a good defender or not. I don't know if he's like guarding either. But I
He
think
was
Ron
the he
will
was
put on
the
if Ron
he
puts
was the
on 15
primary
pounds.
Jokic matchup when they would play the Nuggets. They would have Anthony Davis roam and put Rui on Jokic, which that says something to me. Like even if he didn't do an outstanding job, if they have enough trust to be like you're matching up with Jokic tonight, I ain't mad at it. He's strong, at least. I'll give it. He's strong as hell.
Yeah, decent pick. Valley, you have
I got a bunch
a
more.
pick coming in.
Yeah, I do. Took Io. Io was definitely my number two on there. But continuing in a similar nature, CJ McCollum to me, I think it's just an obvious one you have to consider. You look at the impact he had on the Hawks team, a young Hawks team, provided a lot of just steadiness. And like you saw what he did in Madison Square Garden. He made that series competitive nearly on his own. He was excellent in the playoffs, which again might raise his value a little bit. But I think all 30 teams. I don't think it's a team that wouldn't want CJ McCollum on their roster. From my understanding, an ultimate professional, obviously with his role at the NBPA, I think highlights that. It definitely shows it. But on the court, provides scoring from all three levels. A tweener, he can go as the point guard, he can go off the ball and catch and shoot. Just a guy that's been around. I think that every roster needs someone that's been around, has been there, has done that, and they know how to do it. They know how to win. McCollum obviously most of his career in Portland playing off ball next to Damian Lillard. I don't think there'd be any instance or any worry about him playing next to Cade or with Cade. I think that would only be, highlighted and be better. Heck, I don't know. I feel like you can't praise McCollum enough for his professionalism, and the product on the court. I think really shows he's a very good 3-point shooter. Really good float game. I think he would just be an excellent fit with the inexperience we have in our core, how young our core is. Just having again someone that's been there, they've done that, and they know how to get there. They know how the game works. They know how to talk to refs when things aren't going their way. They know how to settle a team down, knock down a jumper, and he's a microwave too, ability to really get hot. I might actually have him over Io DeSumo on maybe like a 2-year deal, similar to what we saw Tobias. Give him a pretty big payday for 2 years and kind of go from there. Maybe work in a team option. But to me, McCollum's really high on my list. I also love his personality. Really funny guy. When they tried to paint the picture that he's the villain, like in the Knicks series, but he just in his voice just says, "Oh, I'm just a father," you know. Um, his presence would be so welcomed here. Ball handling, shooting, veteran leadership, check all the boxes off with CJ McCollum. I've talked myself into him, perhaps even being over Norman Powell. He might be my number one free agent target after my 30-second spit on him.
What? So he's 35, made 32 million a year in his last contract. What are you envisioning? You said a 2-year.
Yeah, I mean,
How much?
it's difficult. I don't know if I'd go much past like 2-year 65. I don't know if I'd go much further than that.
Very.
It's a bit much, I think, even then. Maybe if you go even bigger and work in a team option in that second year, 2-year 65 with a team option, I think I'd be happy with. Got to pay somebody. And, I think a whole nother topic, but the discount I assume we're going to get on Duran, that money could essentially be used elsewhere. And McCollum, I think, would just be a great spot. He could be a guy that starts for us, if we theoretically were to go get him. I don't think he'd be a bench player. I think he would start next to Cade Cunningham, and that's the price you got to pay for a well-established player in this league nowadays.
I think that's an overpay. I don't think he's.
What
I
do you
don't
think?
think he can. I don't think he can start all season and the energy that we're trying to
What
bring defensively.
What do you think he was gonna get? Like, I honestly have no idea what he demands in the market. Like,
I think he's going for the longest deal he possibly can at this point in his career. So like a 3, maybe even a 4-year, 3-year deal probably is what I'm looking at. I don't know, 3-year 20. So 3 for 60. Same
I
as the
would
Chris Stops, I think.
I would do that.
I don't think he can start. I love him. I think he's a really good player. But I don't think he can hold up physically for a whole season at the defense that we're trying to play.
I
And
agree.
I think as starter, we're trying to we're trying to find the long-term pieces right now to make this team complete. And he's just not he's a guy you can add on the bench, but I think there's still holes to plug long-term fits before you go get this guy to like push you over the edge.
All right. Whose turn is it? My turn again?
No,
No,
my
it's your
turn.
turn.
So let's see. I'm choosing between two here. Maybe they'll be my last two picks, I guess, or last pick here. I'm gonna stick with what Ahmed said in the chat as well. Sticking with the Bulls, Kobe White, just another guy in the same, 26 years old now, entering his prime. Fills it up. He's a really good shooter. He's a cool look to him. He's fast. He's lightning fast. He gets to the paint and he can spray out as well. Charlotte was a good situation for him. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to retain him with like the space and pace that they play with. We could use him. He's a guy that probably comes off the bench. He's kind of small, but he's more physical and like more athletic than McCollum. So he's the guy, him, Io kind of fulfill the same role. Io's a little bit bigger, a little bit more, I don't know. Jack of all tradesy, I guess, than Kobe White, who's just really a shooter and a scorer, which is really good. For me, I like him. I think he just fits what we need. Put the ball in his hands a little bit and let him get some buckets.
Yeah, I always thought Kobe White and I had assumed overlapped a lot, which kind of didn't play into their favor in Chicago. Love him for his shot making. I think similar to Norman Powell, I can say the same things about him. He's gonna catch the ball, he's gonna shoot the ball. And he's gonna do it at a pretty high level as well. I loved what he did in Charlotte. I think he was excellent for them. Again, like a lot of these guys, I think their value is gonna be raised because of their performances with the teams that they were either traded to or for their playoff runs. And Kobe White was a big part of the Hornets continuing to kind of turn around their season. I'm all for Kobe White. I think he would be an excellent addition. Another one of those guys where I thought we were somewhat linked to, or at least talked to, where we ended up coming out with Kevin Huerter. I know Amit has said even himself he wishes that we could have gotten Kobe White out of them, and he said that more than a few times, and fully inclined to agree with him. I'd love Kobe White on this roster. I think he'd be a great addition.
Any other guys you want to shout out before we
I
do a few trades? We don't have too much time.
want
I
to,
just want to do a quick shot at Tim Hardaway, bring him
yeah,
back.
Yeah. Contavious
shout.
Caldwell Pope, Anfree Simons. I'm actually more into Anfree Simons. And if they don't pick up the team options, Pooh Fart, Lou Dort. I
Nah,
think would be an awesome Piston.
not Ludo. I
Is
like
it?
I like Colin Gillespie, but I think like at that point you could rather go Sasser. Gillespie's,
Oh,
short.
Gillespie's better than him.
Gillespie's
Gillespie's
miles
better.
better.
He's better, but I'm saying physique wise, same points you can point out by him defensively being too short. Same things are there. Can't overlap with Danis most likely. I don't like Lou Dort. I don't want Lou Dort on this roster. I don't like him. I don't like his jumper. I don't think he's a good shooter. I don't know what else he provides. And I just think I know we get away with some stuff with our physicality, and I know it's a rhetoric, but I don't think his physicality would work on a lot of other teams. Um, but I'm not huge on Lou Dort, and I bet the Thunder would pick up that option.
Yeah, he is the starting two on the best team in the league, so he must be doing something right. Any chance LeBron comes to the Pistons? Because he would be my ideal number one target, realistically.
I'd say we're probably bottom 20 out of the 30 teams for landing LeBron James. That guy's going to Cleveland. He's not going anywhere else. He's going to Cleveland.
I wouldn't be so sure. All right, let's do some trades. Connie, do you have any ready? If not, I can start us off with a trade of a guy I know you like as well.
Um, yeah, go ahead.
All right, well, I don't know if you're doing this as well, but Kyrie Irving, come on over. This is going to be Mavs new GM fired their coach. They're in a rebuild. They're going to draft a point guard. So you might as well trade Kyrie, right? Get some value for him. I don't think his price is going to be that high. So let's say Isaiah Stewart, Karis LeVert, Marcus Sasser, and our 21st pick this year, and then like a first round pick a few years from now to sweeten the pot. Who says no?
I I love the idea of Kyrie Irving on this team. I can't I know it's gonna have to happen at some point. I can't get off Isaiah Stewart. Um, is there anything worth noting on Kyrie's the perception he has is that he's a toxic locker room guy. I don't think that's necessarily true to the fullest. Like Luca, for example, has spoken nothing but highly of him. I don't think that would be an issue. And in principle, I would love Kyrie on this team. I can't. What was the trade package? Was it Stu and Ron?
No, no Ron. Stu,
Okay,
Sasser, and LeVert.
not cares. Um, yeah, it's so difficult the decision on Stu with the lack of tradable contracts that we have. Stu is theoretically one of them, but at the same time, he is the heartbeat of this team. He carries that Detroit identity with him. I can't move off Stu. If there's another way to get Kyrie Irving, if the market is pretty low for a 34-year-old coming off a gruesome injury, missed a lot of time, you can maybe argue that in the trade talks that he's always had some sort of locker room stuff going on, but I love Kyrie on this team, man. He would provide so much of what we would need, but I think ultimately the asking price is going to be one of Stu. It's going to be one of Ron, and I think for those reasons, I'm out.
Connie?
I'd be in for that. I, yeah, I'm in for that. I love Kyrie as a secondary creator here. The only thing is that, you're talking about building for the future. It's not really there for the future, but he would be really good for a run right now. So I wouldn't mind a little Kyrie. How
You
do you
think
guys?
be able to hang? You say McCollum can't hang with our defensive scheme over 82 games. You think Kyrie Irving? I think he's probably much more injury prone than a McCollum. You think there's any concern there? Or does talent just outweigh it?
I think
Talent,
talent outweighs it. And
talent
he's
always.
proven he can play playoff defense. Like he won a chip as a starting like guy primarily on Thompson and Curry. So,
Went to the finals again. Yeah.
yeah.
How do you guys feel about the other two, like the trades that have been floating around, like the Trey Murphy stuff, where it's like 3 first rounders, Ron, freaking the whole bag for Trey Murphy?
I'm not. I feel like there's got to be a point where you pull the trigger, right? But is Murphy that guy? Can he
I
handle the
don't think so.
ball? Can he create for himself at that level, or is he just an elite catch and shoot player, especially for his size? And
I
is
think
he
he's a
worth
Desmond Bain type, and dumping too much into him would be a Desmond Bain type trade, like the Magic did. Like he's not an all-star. He's not an all NBA guy. I think just the valuation for him has gone a little bit off of the deep end.
Yeah.
Like what is
Um,
like 4 picks? The one I saw, 4 picks: Holland, Stu, Duncan, and I'm like, absolutely not.
yeah,
No.
never. It's never worth it.
And I still want Klay Thompson as well. It's a trade that can be done.
Oh,
All right. Well, we're about to wrap up here. So I think that was some good off-season chat. We could definitely talk more about some trades later, but definitely got into our main free agency targets. Let us know. Pound off in the comments.